Hi, welcome to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brie. I'm a doctor of psychology, financial educator, astrologer, and founder of Forecasting for Success, a community of people improving their financial literacy to achieve financial independence. I blend my expertise as a former professor and financial intelligence analyst with the tool of astrology to help break down why you are struggling with specific money habits and the best way to form more intentional responses and choices when it comes to money, especially to help you feel more secure in your financial decisions and improve your money skills for building long-term wealth. Welcome back to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. Remember that you can subscribe to the show to ensure that you never miss an episode or any of the free resources mentioned during my conversations with guests, which you can find in the show notes of each episode. You can also share this show with a friend, which I'd really appreciate, as well as send me your comments and questions that I can help answer in future episodes. You can always reach me at forecastingforsuccess.com/podcast. My guest today is Romina, who has questions about money trauma, both personal and familial or inherited money trauma. She has several family members who experienced very challenging situations, and she's curious if these past events have created a type of karmic barrier that is part of why she's unable to move forward financially, which turns out is very relevant regarding her deep desire to buy a home in the near future, to represent external security and an external foundation for her life. And with that, let's get started. Hello, Romina. Thank you for being here. What would you like a reading about today?
Hello, thank you for the invitation. I am very excited about this episode because money is a big topic in my life, and I feel that we aside from the conditions and what we do in our current life, I believe that we inherit a lot of money trauma and money situations that are doesn't belong to us. So I have a couple of questions, but I will start with one to not overwhelm you. Back then, I read about karmic contracts. That means that things that go we inherit from our grandparents, from our genealogic tree. So I would like to know if there's something like a karmic contract or something in my family story that is not making me move forward.
Right, perfect. That is a very powerful question. And I definitely see two really big things whenever I looked at your birth chart to help answer this question. And we will be keeping your birth information private for this reading, but I'll try to describe generally where I'm seeing the information to help answer your question. So even though it's technically about finances, I do want to start with your fourth house. And so the fourth house, what this represents is both our inner or private life and also our home life. And it actually refers to more so what feels like home, not necessarily the physical house itself. And the fourth house, it also symbolizes where you're coming from or your psychological family inheritance, as well as your family genealogy or family background. So that's why I'm going to start with your fourth house for this question, vice some other area of the birth chart that's more about finances specifically. So your fourth house is ruled by Sagittarius at 5 degrees and 15 minutes. But within your fourth house, you have both Saturn, which is conjunct Uranus. So Saturn is in Sagittarius at 26 degrees and 48 minutes, and you have Uranus at 27 degrees and 21 minutes. So this is actually a pretty tight conjunction inside of this home. So one of the most important things about this type of placement within the fourth house is learning to establish your self-worth from within and to learn that the outside world cannot diminish or remove your own self-worth or self-value. So this is something that's important for you to decide and to recognize that you personally have control over. So this feeling and this belief of your self-value and your self-worth is something that solely you control versus someone else being able to control the narrative or to put you in a situation to where you believe their narrative or their assumptions of your self-worth. So it's really important that throughout your lifetime, you work on establishing your own inner strength and your own self-identity so that it's solid and enduring. And this is something that gets easier over time. So whenever you're younger and inside of a home, it might be more complicated if there are challenging relationships. But obviously, as we grow as adults and you have more autonomy over yourself and your life, it gets easier. I did want to ask you a question of if you had a difficult or an unsupportive home life growing up, or rather, if someone might have created a narrative like this, or a narrative about your family karma being heavy.
I think it's more like my own, like being very tough with myself and not because I have a very supportive mom. My parents got divorced when I was little, like 9. So, I mean, from that side, yeah, I didn't feel like quite the support, but it's just narratives that I have in my head. But it is more like I didn't feel good enough, especially when I was a teenager, because I felt very different from everybody else. Not because I thought that I was better, but just different. I felt things different. I always felt like I'm an old soul, so I didn't resonate so many well in the what is supposed to be. So I think it would be that mostly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense with these two planets being in this house because Saturn speaks to challenges, but it's also the house of the mother. So it makes sense that your mother would have to step into both this mother and father role and your mother to be your foundation because Saturn stereotypically represents the father, but it's in the house of your mother. So it makes sense why there would be this duality and this sense of your mother providing this foundation for you. And Uranus makes things very unusual. It has this energy to where things don't quite feel right. It does make things feel different. It's not stereotypical, if you will. So
Mhm.
it represents this relationship being different than what others might have experienced, as well as your feelings being different than what other people were expressing around you. So that it definitely tracks with your birth chart.
Totally, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, it also speaks to one or both parents being distant or absent. And this can be either emotionally or physically. And so, again, if there was a parent that was not giving you the support that you needed, it's also represented in this placement as well.
Yeah, it's totally like that.
I was wondering if there was any type of guilt that came up for you. Was there any type of guilt that you experienced with your family dynamics that made you feel like you were the one responsible for trying to resolve this issue of changing your family's story, like having the story be more in your control?
No, I didn't feel it, but for context, maybe if it helps, I do come like from both sides of the family, both grandparents escaping from war and trying to survive over that and just, yeah, get along.
Yeah, that's a very heavy history, and it obviously makes sense why something like that would impact you, even as a grandchild. That's still very close to that lived experience. And it would make sense why having more control over resources, so having plenty of money, plenty of power, plenty of control, and things that resources can access for you would provide a more solid foundation and more security for yourself and people that you care about in your life. What's interesting about these two planets being in your fourth house is it brings up a really important question of familial wounding. And the core question is, what do I really need? Because if you have an authentic answer to what is truly needed when it comes to both resources and emotional security, that will help you resolve what needs to come from within yourself and not just be based on the opinions of others. So it's a way to genuinely decide what you need to build as a foundation for you personally that will be safe and secure for your lifetime, but also provide resources and security for your descendants at your choosing, at your discretion, if that's if that's something that you want. Because obviously not everyone wants children or descendants necessarily, but regardless, it is a way to change the story and the dynamics of your family.
And in case I don't want, how would that dynamic show up?
You mean if you did or did not want children?
Yes.
So the whether or not you would want children is stereotypically the fifth house. And the fifth house is also ruled by Sagittarius, but you have Neptune in there. And Neptune it's known as the planet of illusions.
Illusions.
Yeah.
Meaning,
Meaning it might not be something that's easily decided for you. It would be possible to have conflicting feelings on something like that, because normally, if it's ruled by a fire sign, for instance, it represents more of your desire for autonomy and independence. It's opposite the moon. And your moon I hope this is making sense. Your moon is conjunct Chiron. Chiron represents wounding. Chiron is something that is very challenging. It's something that we normally struggle to confront and resolve until we get into our 40s. So, normally, once you're age 40 and over, that's when you're encouraged to look more deeply at something like Chiron in order to being more open psychologically and emotionally into confronting what has caused harm, things that we carry with us over time that have deeply wounded us. So not only are you highly intuitive, it's really interesting how open to spirituality you are and how deeply you feel this. And I can understand why sometimes you're not quite sure. You're not quite sure if it's your emotions or someone else's emotions, just because of how open you are spiritually or empathetically to other people.
yeah, makes totally sense. So, especially because sometimes I try to connect with my intuition to make decisions, but I don't have like sometimes the answer. So I have
Right.
to wait until I feel something. And
Yeah.
sometimes I have to take like a decision right away. But it's like with the important stuff. Of course, I'm not gonna say, oh, pizza or pasta and wait 2 days for that. Only for the important stuff.
Yeah. I can definitely understand why it would be frustrating for you that you would have these inklings of something, but it's not clear enough. And ironically, both of these, both this moon Chiron and your Neptune, it's square to your Mars. And your Mars is in Aries, which means that you very strongly want to take action on things. And so for you to have this feeling in the back of your mind, but not quite be able to figure out what it is and not be able to move forward on something, I definitely understand and empathize with that being terribly frustrating for you, because how can you not know what you want? How can you not know your own emotions or thoughts? Like, why is it back here? Like, why is it not here and understandable so that you can just move forward and have progress?
Especially because I have a Leo rising. So I want to
Mm.
take action.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel conflictuated.
Yeah. Because it's not just that you want to take action for yourself, it's that you want to take action and be recognized for your decisions and for your leadership qualities and for your resolutions for what you can solve, things that not only help yourself, but can help others. So, yeah, it's a terribly frustrating dynamic, unfortunately. Okay. So if we do go back to again looking at the fourth house to answer your first question and this dynamic of Saturn and Uranus being conjunct together, it also represents that either you had a lot of family responsibilities that fell on your shoulders, or it was a feeling like you had responsibility to your family and that it was important that you either shared this burden or you tried to alleviate the burden for other family members. And so I can see that your family definitely depends on you, or your loved ones, the people that mean family to you, because you're well known for coming through for other people. And so I definitely see this dynamic of you just taking on more, and like I said, in order to try to resolve what you can to help other people that you care about. I also see that the placement can cause like a yearning, a desire for something to be permanent and stable in your life. Interestingly enough, this type of dynamic, it often manifests as wanting to acquire either land or a house because it represents a foundation, it represents a solid structure. So it kind of satiates this inner need of wanting stability. It represents stability, like you've manifested this foundation that you need in your life. So I did want to ask a question if you've ever had this desire to buy a house and
This
whether or
hits
not it's
home.
oh,
Yes, like I think that when I understood that me not looking for something stable or anything, it was just how my brain was wired because I grew up in a very unstable economy culture. So every day, like for context, I come from Argentina, so Latin America is known that you wake up and there's always a new crisis, always more inflation and more stuff. So you just learn to live by surviving. So I wired that in my brain, and now that I became conscious about that, I it shifted, and now it's like I don't want to stay in a place like forever, but starting especially from this year, my goal is I want to earn more because I want to buy a house. It will make me feel like more grounded, at least to have a base. Then, yeah, move and travel around the world. But yeah, you nailed it.
that's actually really important to recognize. And I'm glad to hear you say having it more as a home base because to be honest with you, when I look at your chart, I wanted to caution you against buying a house that would heavily impact your finances. I would definitely recommend to take a good moment in order to look at your finances and be very realistic about what you can afford whenever it comes to buying property. So a house, an apartment, whatever you decide is appropriate for yourself, and encourage you to ensure that it's affordable and will not limit your ability to travel or enjoy unique life experiences. Because I do see this theme of travel coming up over and over again in your natal chart. I recognize that your ability to move around freely is really important for your own personal self growth and self discovery. That it's really important for you to not only experience other places in the world, but also other people and other people's lived experiences. So I can definitely see you exploring the world and exploring how other people have lived and somehow writing about it somehow, or even not necessarily physically writing it in a journal, even something like vlogging, podcasting, etc. Somehow having this evolution of you discovering yourself through the travel and interactions with others. So, obviously, if you want to buy a house, an apartment, or anything, go for it. I just wanted to really bring to your attention to be cautious with the financial aspect so that your whole life isn't trapped and sucked up in just the ownership of the home. Have you been able to do that yet? Have you gotten into the finances or is it just an idea at this point?
An idea and a desire to send to the universe. But no, I haven't. Like it's a plan to increase my earnings. That's why, like I said in the beginning, like money and finances is like the big topic of my life because I struggled my whole life. From this year, I started to see that it was breaking some patterns of what always happened in my life, but not to buy a house yet. But it's very important that you brought this up. Like, thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I did want to highlight for you that you are going through a Jupiter return right now. And so, what that means is the current placement of Jupiter today is almost exact with your natal Jupiter at the moment when you were born. And what's really interesting about your Jupiter is that it's at the very, very top of your chart. It's a very tight conjunction with your midheaven. And your midheaven is what represents your reputation and your long term career. And normally, A Jupiter return represents a time of expansion, which also could mean a time of being very lucky. And so, if you were looking to expand your opportunities for more income or being more well known, this is definitely the time to do it. It's the time to experiment with new things, to really set your intentions to think about this on a daily basis and just trust that the universe is going to have your back and will expand upon this desire or this idea in order for you to get to the next level. And so it's going to be conjunct, like I said, through February of 2025. So between now and February of 2025 is a really good time to just send out those mental thoughts of what you want to bring in.
Oh, exciting. I'm very happy. So Jupiter, what does represent? Because I'm a newbie in astrology. I know nothing.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I can explain Jupiter really quick. I think why Jupiter for you would be really important is because again, it's one of these planets that represents travel and higher education, if you will. And that doesn't always have to be necessarily from, sitting in a classroom. There are different ways to achieve higher education. So traditionally, we might think of this as like a university or a school, but there are other types of ways to learn in order to get into the weeds more on topics that really mean something to us. And it also represents things like philosophy and spirituality. So I definitely understand why these would be areas that resonate with you. And again, it's something that we would not want to restrict or remove this or limit this type of opportunity for you because it being at the very top of your chart like that, it definitely represents an area of importance. It's a highlight, if you will, of your chart, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to emphasize not buying a home base that would max out your finances because it limits these other really important areas of growth for you.
Amazing. Yeah. 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 Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, finally, good news.
Let's see. I did skip around because that was a really important current transit I wanted to tell you about. Where did I leave off? Yeah, maybe I can bridge these two topics together because I had made notes about how freedom being a really important thing that drives you. And again, Jupiter is something that represents freedom since it overlaps with travel. But it makes sense that you would want to balance this with stability. So it does represent having that safe home base that you can come home to, for instance, after your travels. It's funny. I made a note here that it would be important to leave your home country. So I love it when there's already examples of your lived experience, like you're already living your chart, if you will, because you've already left your home country. So it's like you've
Yes.
already
Tick.
checked that box of like
Yes.
you're on the path, you're on this path of self-discovery that your chart is saying that you really need. I think we've covered down on your fourth house and the importance of this fourth house dynamics and how this impacts your question of where you're trying to go in life. But the second thing that I saw is that you actually have a grand cross and it's a cardinal grand cross. So what this means is you have four planets that are all squaring each other. It literally makes a square on your birth chart. I'm going to read out what the planets are just for any other astrologers listening. That way they can mentally try to keep track in their head. Because astrologers have this habit of mentally mapping
Decipher.
everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're a cardinal grand cross, you've got a sun in Libra at 9 degrees and 20 minutes. You have Neptune in Capricorn at 7 degrees 28 minutes. You have Mars in Aries at 4 degrees 1 minute. You have Moon in Cancer at 4 degrees 51 minutes, which is conjunct Chiron, which is in Cancer at 7 degrees 2 minutes. It's considered more rare. It's not something that's very common, if you will. And what this means is that you not only possess strong gifts, but it means that your life is accompanied by struggle. So it's this combination of having obstacles and you encountering obstacles And you have to figure out how to use your innate gifts in order to overcome the obstacles and create balance in your life. And this ability to create balance in your life is unfortunately challenging because of this dynamic. Because it's a cardinal grand cross, it's almost like you ask the universe to play as a human on hard mode.
Hmm.
So it's not just about struggling to struggle. It's about genuinely finding this inner strength to forge your own path to where you become in charge of the narrative. That way, it doesn't matter what challenges come up, what obstacles come up on the road. You've learned what skills you have in life to overcome any challenges that might pop up on the road. It's almost like it's almost like drama can find you. Like it cannot be helped for whatever reason. Drama happens, unfortunately. But the good news is these cardinal aspects, you really have a lot of inner strengths, a lot of dynamic inner strengths to where it is possible to have this basket of tricks, if you will, in order to overcome, what pops up.
Does it mean that it will be like that my whole life? Yes.
It does mean that's kind of the life path. However, it is something that gets easier over time because as we gain life experience and gain wisdom, it's easier and quicker to know which of your talents to address the issue with. So it is something that's quite challenging if you were a young adult. But like I said, as you get older, you're more likely to develop this attitude of, oh, I I recognize this problem. And then I've got this to solve this type of problem. It's easier to find the square peg to put in the square hole. Because
Yeah.
when you're really young, it's like your basket is empty. You've got this obstacle, but you haven't really developed the skills yet to address it. But thankfully, it's not that way for your whole life. It does technically get easier over time.
Yeah, great.
With the Cardinal Grand Cross, what this represents is that you have this incredible capacity to become an accomplished person and to be a significant person in the world that you want to create. And this is especially emphasized or expanded, this potential, this energy, with that Jupiter at your midheaven, like we discussed. So, the goal of a Grand Cross is to find your center because you've got all these squares, all these outliers. So the goal is to balance and center these conflicted energies, if you will. And so these dramatic moments and these difficult circumstances that you might encounter in your life, what it's asking of you and what might sometimes be forcing you to learn is what it means to truly have balance and boundaries. Otherwise, there might be this inner turmoil that continues to where you're not quite sure what decisions and choices you should make because you wouldn't want to go down this road of having other people decide what's best for you. We definitely want to avoid that. It's really important to try to spend time clearing away this energy that Neptune has of causing illusions, causing you to be unsure, and to really learn how to sit with these feelings of intuition in order to come up with a realistic and actionable plan for what you want to accomplish in life.
Yeah, makes sense.
Ah, I was going to give you homework. That's what I was thinking of.
Yay.
So I did notice that with your chart, you only have one planet in an Earth sign, and ironically, that's Neptune. So your Neptune is in Capricorn, but the rest of your planets are all the other elements. And so I was going to recommend to you to developing some type of grounding ritual. So for instance, I was going to recommend if there's a safe place where you can take a walk and just think about things, I would highly recommend that. Other people choose very stereotypical projects like doing some type of art, a physical art. Some people do meditations or yoga, a specific type of workout, etc. So obviously these are all options. But for instance, you have a lot of air that's interacting with your water. So I can tell that you're thinking about your thinking and you're thinking about your intuition and you're trying so hard to think through the issues, to think through what it is that's so nebulous, what's in the back of your mind. So it might help you to have something that can ground you and something that can center you, like a something that you enjoy and would help you more quickly have this clarity of thought.
Mm.
Another theme with the Cardinal Grand Cross is that it's really important to learn to act strategically, to learn to think through second and third order effects rather than have these impulses of action. So it's really about a theme of to think before you act. When you've got your Mars squared your moon, it definitely creates this intense pull between your emotions versus your actions. So it can represent this internal struggle with your own emotions and knowing how to appropriately react emotionally to events that you experience, as well as struggling to recognize and understand any subconscious patterns that you might have outgrown or patterns that no longer serve your needs. They're not promoting your well-being in the present. So this is another indicator of this repeated life theme of having personal growth and self-awareness. I, I think I have a question first before I go more deeply into this aspect. Was there ever a moment where you were asked or it was expected of you to take care of your mom or to take care of your parents when you were younger?
Mm, not so much,
Okay. I
but
think what,
my mom felt it with my grandmother
okay, that makes
because
sense.
she was the one that I feel very related to her because she's very creative and she had her head on the clouds.
Oh,
So I also feel like, I mean, there's a beautiful part of her, but she was also very like irresponsible with finances. So
mm.
in the genetics, it skips one generation and then the other one. So I was told that this inconsistency in my income and everything is because of that. Because of
Really?
that, let's leave. I mean, my grandma was like that. Let's leave because tomorrow we don't know if we're alive, and tomorrow you wake up alive and with debt.
Oh,
So I mean, she was lovely, but I was told that that imbalance comes because of that.
that's really interesting. And I definitely can understand that if you were quite literally having to escape, terribly unsafe conditions in order to try to survive, I definitely understand why that would create this mentality of you have to live for every day. It's really interesting that you bring that up of potentially it skipping a generation because your moon and your Chiron, this very tight conjunction, is in your 11th house, and the 11th house represents our dreams. And so it would make sense how this lived experience of your grandmother would be influencing and impacting your dreams in this life about whether or not this is something within your family's lineage, this story, this lived experience, is this something that you can overcome? So again, it might still be impacting your decisions and your dreams and where you're going today, but it's something again that you would overcome for your lifetime. That you have the capacity, you have the tools and the skill sets in order to resolve this.
Yeah, great. I mean, I'm not gonna stop until it's. I use all the tools and
So I think that completes the two major aspects that I saw that really affect this first question of yours before I want to move into other areas of your chart. Is there anything else that I can help answer or maybe resolve with the first question that you have?
I was thinking about Jupiter and how it has this big impact now. It was Jupiter, yes. There's
Yes.
in the how do you see that is related that growth and that recognition and
Yeah, absolutely. So your natal Jupiter and obviously Jupiter where it is right now in the sky are in the sign of Gemini. And what Gemini represents is communication. And so it's just expanding all the ways that you communicate as well as the ways that you think. And so it's an expansion of potentially topics that you want to cover, topics that you want to explore, and the ways that you communicate about these topics that you feel are important right now. Gemini can be tricky though, because it's definitely a jack of all trades sign. So it can be very tricky to decide what it is that you need to focus on because it just keeps seeing opportunity and potential in so many areas. And so it can definitely be very difficult to figure out what you need to talk about and then follow through with it. So you might get started on something, but then it's shiny object, and then you don't quite finish this idea, this initiative over here, and then you move to something else. So obviously, if you're at the end of this cycle, end of this window of opportunity, and you have, 30 half-finished projects, half-finished ideas, that's not, it ends up not being helpful.
Mhm.
Let me look at your chart for just a second and see if I can figure out where you might need to look.
Yes.
Where is your north node? Your north node is in Pisces and it's in your seventh house. Your north node represents where you're going in life. However, the north node isn't quite activated until we get into our 40s. Your north node is interesting in that it's intercepted in your seventh house. When something is intercepted in our natal charts, it's hidden. It means that the entire 30 degrees of this sign, Pisces, is hidden inside, in this case, your seventh house, which means that it's almost like a secret weapon, if you will. So if this is the seventh house represents our one-on-one relationships to other people. And it doesn't necessarily mean romantic relationships. It honestly just represents when we have one-on-one dealings with any other person. When one sign is intercepted, it means that its opposite sign is also intercepted. So that means for you personally, you have Virgo intercepted in your first house. What that means to me is that you are highly detail oriented, and that's actually a secret weapon of yours. You having this skill of being able to pay attention to detail is something that people might not recognize or see in you right away. It's the secret power that you have that you can bring out at a time of your choosing. So I think what I would encourage for you is start to explore this idea for how you analyze yourself and how you can analyze the lived experience of other people. So what I see this growing opportunity for you over time in order to learn more about who you are when you learn more about who someone else is. So you have this really unique ability to find this uniqueness in others, these diamonds in the rough, these people who on the surface might not seem like they have a unique lived experience, or they might not overtly show off a unique skill that they have, but you can spot this, you can find them. It's again, this is part of your intuitive skill. So as you learn more about other people and their other uniqueness, it'll teach you more about who you are, your own self value. It'll add value to you and your skill set, and it'll add value and more color, more detail to your own life. So I think I would start exploring this aspect because the way that it's interacting with your Jupiter there at the midheaven, if you're able to figure out how you want to do that, if that is something that interests you now or in the near future, this way to expand and evolve your communication, this one-on-one communication with others, and then share that with the world. I could see that definitely growing your business in very unique ways that would it would make you stand out, it would make your talents stand out, your business stand out, and then you would get to personally grow at the same time. Yeah, because both your sun and your Mercury are in Libra. It definitely gives a very pleasant dynamic, this very pleasant atmosphere to where others would feel much more comfortable talking to you and telling you things that they might not tell other people. Because not only do you have a way of very easily understanding and mirroring back what someone has to say, even if someone had something to say that was a little rough around the edges, you would be able to repeat it in a more pleasing way.
Yes,
uh,
totally right.
yeah. Let me actually talk about your sun. Let me talk about your sun for a minute. Let's do that. Because, like I said, your sun is in the second house in Libra, and your second house is ruled by Libra. And the second house, this is the house that represents your personal money, your finances, what you value. It represents your material world. So when you have a second house that's ruled by Libra, it definitely represents you having good taste, good aesthetics, potentially artistic talent, diplomacy, like we had mentioned. So it's important to find a way to honor your personal values and find a way to have this match your material world. So when you have this balance of your personal values being reflected in your home, for instance, your home base, that's what would help you feel at home, to feel calm and to feel balanced. If your outer world, if your safe space does not match your inner world, your inner values, it would definitely create this imbalance to where you would not feel comfortable. You would
Yeah.
definitely seek out a way to fix that quickly. It's not something that would be easy to live with. So when your sun is in Libra, this helps highlight where you can shine the brightest. So it makes sense why money and finances would be so important to you and would speak to your core identity and your core values because it's in the house where this matters, the most. And Libra is ruled by Venus. And so what's really interesting about your chart is that Venus is in the sign of Leo. And what this is, it's a mutual reception. These two planets of money are in each other's sign. So this is another heavy layer, this heavy emphasis of how much your values and your finances matter to you, that it really is important for the foundation of who you are and the foundation of your life. And so when two planets are in each other's rulership, when they have this mutual reception, it not only creates this special connection, but it almost makes these planets act as if they were touching. It makes them act as if they were conjunct, even though they're in different areas of your chart. And what's brilliant about your Venus is that it's conjunct your ascendant. It's right there at the very beginning of who you are. And so, what your ascendant does is it represents your worldview, it represents how you see the world. And so, it's almost like you have glasses on that make Venus unavoidable. It means that your glasses technically have some layer of Venus that you can't truly get rid of, if you will. So no matter how you see the world, it's got this layer to it. It's just layer upon layer of Venus and what this all represents, which again is, money and value, what's valuable.
It's crazy.
Let me stop there for a second. Have
Yeah.
any questions come up for you, or do you have any other questions that I could help answer?
I was trying to think about what you just said. Like, is there something that I should do or have in consideration with these two planets' energies?
About how Sun and Libra are
Yeah.
behave together?
Besides of my appreciation of what I want the most, but in a sense of, can it be helpful or
Oh
can I
yeah.
do
Oh yeah,
something
very
about it?
yeah, very much. I think for me, whenever I see a planet like that that's sitting right on top of someone's rising sign, when it's so conjunct like that, is I always ask the question of why would you want to include Venus with your worldview? Like, why, for your lifetime, for your lived experience, why do you need to have Venus? So, for most people, we just have the ascendant, and that is just one flavor, of the worldview. I think it's really helping you to soften the grand cross that we talked about. So, for instance, Venus represents one of your secret weapons, if you will, to where it softens some of these challenges. So, even if a challenge still occurs, it's perhaps a little quicker or a little easier for you to access the skills and the gifts that you have in order to overcome the challenge. So, for instance, your this Venus that we're talking about is trine to your Saturn and your Uranus. And a trine is a really positive aspect. So, for instance, if you were to have a financial challenge, this aspect that Venus provides, it's a very helpful placement for keeping your finances organized and assessing how money can support you and your core goals. So without this trine that Venus provides, for instance, it might be a little more complicated for you to do the realistic and objective baby steps that we were talking about in order to come up with a solution, a real world solution for an issue that you might be having. So that's one example of what Venus can provide and can help you. You're more quick to have this intuitive knowledge of, okay, I've come across a financial issue. I might have something to where I need money to be a resource to solve an issue for me. And you could not only organize your data, but to do so in a way that would support your goal to help you accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Mhm.
Is that making sense to you, or can I explain it in a better way?
Yeah, no, I think it does. Yes.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to remember to use real words.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm not the only one that needs the English part in there.
Exactly.
But it makes everything sense, and it's amazing how the needle chart like works, and it gets you to to really understand a lot of things about what you're going through and what how you are and everything. So yes.
That's lovely. I'm happy that it's making sense. I really respect it as a helpful tool because it's the way that I see it, it's not secret information. It is who we are. It's just a different way of understanding that, of going through the layers of who we are and our experiences in the world, that it can sometimes break it down into more bite-sized pieces to understand what we're going through and to be a resource that we can check in with as needed in order to set more clear intentions or to understand the path ahead of us in a clearer way.
Yeah. Do you see something else for this year aside from Jupiter? Something that can help me, yeah, maybe to take advantage of what this forecast of this upcoming months.
Yeah. The major things that I would be looking for is it's really mostly the outer planets, so the planets that are further away, so like Jupiter, Saturn, all those planets, because when those move through a new sign or a new house for you, that would be a big deal because those move so slowly that if they did something new in your chart, it would be a major event for you. So we have already discussed Jupiter, but to be honest with you, the other outer planets are sitting like in the middle of your respective houses, and they move very slowly. Let me see if I can share my screen so that you understand what I'm looking at. How do I share my screen? What is this? It won't let me share my screen.
There is like a button of share next to,
Oh,
you
here we
see
go.
the button audio, video. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this inner part right here is your chart.
Yeah.
But this outer one is where the planets are right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm looking for is I'm looking for when they're going to move into these new pie chart areas. So for instance, down here is Pluto, but Pluto's already in the middle. It's already in the middle of this house, and Pluto moves terribly slow. So it's still hanging out down here for quite some time.
Also, I think I read somewhere that Pluto just finished like a transition of 16 years,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. So that would what would also mean that.
Yeah, so Pluto definitely represents generations. And so that's why it's a really big deal, ironically, for money, because it's moving out of the sign of Capricorn, which represents traditional structures, upholding old rules, old systems and foundations, which obviously are not working anymore. And Aquarius represents more of a community-based idea, community-based beliefs, and respecting systems that are better for people, for better for people's lived experiences. So this energy is asking us to shift the way not only our mindsets, but the way our societies are working. It's asking us to no longer uphold the systems that work for only a couple people. We need to shift to systems that work for everyone. And so that's a really big deal because historically, anytime there's been this shift of Pluto from Capricorn into Aquarius, there's quite literally been revolutions. And so it represents the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and that's why it's very provocative to talk about because, people are speculating, what does that mean? What does that mean for our lived experience? What does a revolution in the present day look like? And so it's at 0 degrees, so it's literally just begun. And like you said, Pluto's a very long transit, and so that's the next 20 years. So what is the next 20 years going to look like as we shift to these new ways of living and being? For you personally, Pluto is moving through your sixth house, and the sixth house represents our day to day lives. It represents our day-to-day habits. And it also represents our health. And so it would have been a much more pronounced transition a couple years ago, back when Pluto was at 22 degrees Capricorn, because that's where your sixth house starts. So for you, it would have already been a couple years back when you either had some health events come up, you might have had, things with your physical body that you had to handle, and or you shifted to new habits, new daily habits. And
Mhm.
so it's very possible that that might have coincided with your move to Spain, because that obviously your move creates a very different day-to-day life for you versus where you grew up. But since it's in the middle of this house, you on an individual level, you're getting comfortable now. You're getting comfortable with your new lived experience versus the big society shift. And so that's why it's more relevant for the society question versus your day-to-day experience.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Good. Do
Did
you
we
have any more?
answer
Yes.
everything?
Yes.
All right, I'm
It's very
happy.
complete.
I hope that was helpful. I'm glad I answered everything.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm really interested to hear more about your career actually, because you're way more experienced with this podcasting world than I am. Would you please help explain to me what you do and what your part of your skill set?
Yes, of course. So I have a boutique podcast agency. We work with clients in a personalized way. That means that there's no cookie cutters. I believe that, well, I have experience, several years experience in radio back in Argentina as a host, producer, and the one that curated the music. So it makes sense that communication and music, it's my passion, and a microphone, of course. I also work as a voiceover artist. So everything related to communication, I also manage some social media accounts back in the day. And now I'm focusing on audio. So we help business owners, creatives, and amazing people to create and launch and manage their podcast. So we cover everything. Let's say that, well, this is now a podcast, but let's say that the nutritionist is listening to this episode or another astrologer, and he or she needs help with everything related to what microphone to buy, how do I structure my content. I need custom made music, so you don't download something free that is doesn't speak of your brand identity. So everything that is related to the production of the podcast, hands on, like everything delivered, so you don't have to stress about it, just in a fun way. Because if I'm not having fun, if we're not having fun, it doesn't mean anything. Like for me, it makes no sense. So yeah, we're a small team, but we like to make everything personalized. We have different services based on, I don't know, maybe someone wants to launch but then learn how to manage themselves. Then we have like completely done for you services. Then we have management packages, only making music, maybe so. And also VIP sessions where we meet for 2 hours and you can pick my brain about anything podcasting. So yeah, basically that's it. We have worked with people in different fields and industries like journalists, designers, a fitness coach. Now is coming in 2025. I signed up last week a brand of aging wellness located here, but it won like several awards. So I'm very excited to work on that because I love wellness and everything. So yeah, that is it.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations. I'm so glad that your
Yes,
business is growing, and it's definitely a needed business. So we'll
yes,
definitely put all of your contact information in the show notes to make sure that people can find you.
of course. Yes. Thank you.
Awesome.
And if someone else wants to reach out, I'm also preparing some freebie or something that people can download so they can access to that to have a taste
That's
of what they
perfect.
need, because it's a little bit like overwhelming, the whole process. So I like to provide like the how to's and the steps and everything to make it shine, to make people shine, because I feel that everybody has a beautiful story to share and a mission and a purpose. And I just like to bring the recipe to that chocolate cake that we're cooking made audio. So yes.
That's lovely. I'm so happy for you. What's
Yeah,
your
thank you.
preferred platform? What's your at symbol so people can find you quickly?
Now I love Instagram. Also LinkedIn, I'm posting like little tips so people can learn about it. And I'm very active on threads that I'm also loving it because I feel like it's more natural. So actually we got connected over threads. So yay.
Yeah, we did. I'm also loving that platform. It's been very
Yes.
helpful. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yay.
yeah.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much for being here. It's been a pleasure getting to read for you.
Thank you. Thank you. You have a natural gift for
Oh, thank
sure.
you. That's very kind. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. I want to thank you so much for joining me this week on Forecasting for Success and let you know that you can read the transcript for each podcast episode on my website, which is linked below in the show notes. I've also included the link to send me your money questions if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast at forecastingforsuccess.com/podcast. And if you're ready to get started on improving your financial literacy and developing your own personalized money plan, I encourage you to join my Forecasting for Success community, where I teach you everything you need to know about budgeting, how to choose your retirement number, how to invest in the stock market, and so much more. I go live in the community each month to check in on your progress and help answer any questions you may have. And it's a supportive community where you can also check in with other members and learn from their experiences as well. I hope you take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.